Hello, and welcome to the Lund University International Podcast. On the show, you'll hear from current students, alumni, researchers, professors, and many more special guests as we explore what it's really like to live, study, and work at Lund University, a world top 100 university. My name is Fabio, and I come from Napoli, Italy. I've been studying here in Lund for 4 years, done my bachelor's and I'm a master's student in European Affairs. Did you know that many exchange students enjoy their time in Lund so much that they return for additional studies? Today, we're exploring what it's like to make that journey. We're joined by 3 international students who have returned to Lund after previous studies, from exchange to previous masters. We'll hear what originally brought them to Lund, what stood out during their exchange, and the moment they knew they wanted to return. They'll share how life as a master's student compares to their previous studies, what they love most about Lund's vibrant student life, and how the university has supported their academic and personal growth. If you're wondering whether an exchange could lead to something bigger, or if you're interested in completing multiple programs at Lund, this conversation is full of insights and advice for future international students. Let's welcome today Freja, Faye, and Elena. So welcome, and let's get it started. Freja, tell us a bit about your journey here at Lund University.
Sure. Hey, so I'm Freja. I'm currently a Danish student doing my master's in literature, culture, and media with a specialization in English literature. And I came first to Lund in 2023 when I did my exchange studies here. I came here for half a year from January to June. And it was a part of an exchange semester for my undergrad, which I did in Denmark. And then I returned to Lund in 2024 when I came here to do my full master's here. So I'm currently in my 3rd semester, closing up on my thesis pretty soon. So yeah.
So, hey everyone, my name's Faye. I'm from China. From 2021, I started studying my first master in industrial design. Then I graduated from 2023. 2 years later, I decided to study my second master again at Lund University in management.
Hi everyone, my name is Elena. I come from Indonesia. Similar to Freja, I went for an exchange here in Lund in 2021. It was part of my undergrad studies in the University of Indonesia. And I graduated in 2022. And I left with a very good impression and planned my master's in 2025. So it's pretty recent and I just got here.
Wow, exciting, and it's so nice to see how much excitement there is for Lund University and people coming back. But I want to start from the beginning of your journey. So what brought you to Lund University in the first place for your first studies? For example, your exchange, Elena, what brought you to choose Lund?
So my decision on coming back to Lund, and obviously when I first started discovering Sweden, I think I have a fascination on welfare state. So I think I read it because in my undergrad studies, I have many courses in social sciences, and we kind of touch upon the topics of welfare studies. And I was really curious on what it's like to have a hands-on experience on living in a welfare state. And upon many researches, I found Sweden, and particularly Lund University, as we all know that Lund University boasts itself in a very academic settings. We have proud itself to be one of the top research university. I think that interests me a lot. And part of my biggest decision why I decided to move half a world away, literally.
Yeah, you've come from far, definitely. And welfare state, Lund, Sweden is really the place, I would say, the Nordics, where you can see it very well. What about you, Faye?
Well, same as Elena, I moved across the half of the earth and to arrive in Sweden. And actually, industrial design, this profession area is very frequently mentioned in the Lund University, where they are famous about the creativity and independent learning. My bachelor professors frequently mention about the Lund University, which make me super, super curious. And also I had a summer school once during my bachelor study. It's not in Lund University, but in North Europe, where I enjoy the academic atmosphere here, the openness, inclusiveness. So Lund then become my first choice to start my first master.
Yeah, for me, it was in my Danish university, we had the option to do a semester abroad in our fourth semester. And Lund University was one of the partner universities that my Danish university had. And so it was on that list that I was scrolling through, trying to find which one I wanted to go to. And when I started researching Lund University, what really caught my eye was the globalized student body of Lund University. It's something you see quite immediately when you start getting into Lund University. They're really good at advertising the international part of the university and how many different nationalities and different cultures that we have at Lund University. And so that's something I really wanted to experience because in my home university at the time, it was more so just Danish students. And so I really wanted to become a part of an environment that was way more international. And Lund University was really the perfect opportunity to do that. Location for me was also a big thing. I like my smaller, more cozy towns, but Lund is that city. But at the same time, we have Copenhagen, which is the Danish capital city, just an hour away on train. And so I thought it was kind of the perfect middle point for me to establish myself for half a year.
And that's what brought you to come back again.
Yes, exactly. I loved it so much that I actually, I really, really felt at home here. And so when I went back to finish my undergrad, I immediately missed the town and sort of the life I had created for myself here. So that was a big part of my decision of wanting to return, is that I really just enjoyed living here.
What about you, Faye, instead? What was the thing that stood out the most of your time when you first came to Lund?
Well, when I first came to Lund, that will be the equality, like the equality between men and women. I used to play basketball, but back in China, the boy will not be very harsh on the girls. But here, we are equal. That make whatever score I have much more meaningful for me. And I also can feel my voice was heard. I have the power to influence something and to make decisions. That part is, I would say, the most memorable part. Once I'm coming back to China, I will miss Sweden immediately, where I have freedom.
Oh, very powerful. Thank you, actually.
Yes.
What about you, Elena?
I think I resonate a lot with Faye. I think I really enjoyed the democratized way of learning here, where I felt seen in here, like especially during classrooms. I felt like the professor here doesn't necessarily want to lecture you. They want to share with you, and they studied longer than we obviously have. Therefore, they want to share. Therefore, like I felt like in a lot of like discussion that we have, I have a lot of contribution as well during the classroom session. I think that has stood out the most for me, and that was the biggest decision why I decided to come back for masters, because obviously it's not an easy decision. I moved half a world away. Yeah. So I think the classroom situation really does matter for me.
Yeah, I think about touch on a really big point. It's like the equality, but also kind of not so hierarchical structures that there are at Lund University. And many people are kind of, when they come and then they see that you're professor, you address them with your first name, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, that was something that for me was shocking. I imagine for many of us, maybe not for you as much, but
No, I'm kind of the opposite, because that's what I'm used to. But that was also a part of my decision, because I could have chosen any of the partner universities that my Danish university offered, but I knew in going to Sweden, the next country over, I would still get that flat hierarchy in the classroom, and I would still get the same quality of education and the same sort of environment that I so enjoy learning in. And that was really important for me as well to preserve, because that's something I really value in my education. And it's a big part of why I decided to come here for my master's as well, because if I'm gonna do a whole master's, if I'm gonna dedicate 2 years more to doing this education, I want it to be worthwhile, and I wanted to be in a learning environment that I like actually enjoy being in. And that is definitely what you get at Lund. I very much agree.
Yeah, because coming from like an exchange, maybe it's a bit shorter, right? For you, Elena, too, it's like shorter. You're gonna go back.
Yeah.
But masters is more of a commitment, right?
Exactly.
Definitely.
So you have to make a choice that is a bit more pondered. You have to think about it. How was that the difference between the two, between exchange and masters?
For me, I think this is definitely, like you said, a commitment. For international student, we have to sort out our life, personal life. We have to sort the financial problem. We have to sort the bureaucracy with the permits and stuff. So it's definitely a commitment for me. And for me, before coming back for my master's, I took kind of like 3 years of my life to work, to have like to gain some experience before starting my master's, because I know when I started my master's, I'm gonna meet with peers that are from around the globe, and they are probably so good at their job, and I want to be part of that world as well. So therefore, during those times, I try to gain as much as working experience as possible at my home country. So when I came back to learn again for my master's, now I already have a good quality of knowledge, also practically.
Definitely. What about you, Faye? You've done not an exchange, but you've done a master's, and then you've had a gap year, and then you came back for a master's. So that's a bit different from the others. But how did that thought go? I'm gonna get back in the game and do another master's instead.
When I applied my first master, Lund is one of 5 choices I made, but during my second master, Lund is one of 1 choices which I made. That's the only 1 choice, and I made it just without any concern. So actually, during the gap 2 years, I keep pushing my master thesis forward, where I start a startup at LU Innovation. LU Innovation is the platform supported by Lund University to support the scientists, researchers to bring their ideas to real product. And here I gain so much rapport. I have mentors. I joined the tech arena, tech barbecue. These are also huge arena where connect investors and startups. So with so many resources given by the university, I can easily accept or access to the people who I can never meet. That's why when I decided to start my second master, I chose Lund immediately. The resources and how supportive the university is.
Wow, definitely. I mean, it sounds like a choice. Like it doesn't even sound like a choice, as you said. It was the only. It came natural, right?
Yes.
You know, I mean, by the way, I'm also a student myself, and I've been doing the whole bachelor's, and then it also felt natural. I'm like, I'm just gonna stay here for my master's because, as I said, there's so many opportunities. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Opportunities, but also I think in general, opportunities also ties into something that I personally found really enjoyable in London is student life.
Yes.
And so you get a lot of opportunities and a very balanced student life, right? Where you get enough time to study, but also enough time to do something else, whether it's enjoying with some friends or also creating your own startup, creating those opportunities, right?
Definitely.
And how do you feel like student life has been for you, Freja and Elena?
It's so funny because that was one of the big conversations that I had when I came back from my first exchange, was people wanting to know, how was it like? Why did you like it so much? Why was it so great? And that was always the number one thing I would mention, which is it's hard to explain, but student life is unlike anything I've ever experienced at my previous university or heard anyone else talk about. It's truly something that's very unique to Lund University, even within Sweden. They have other great universities in Sweden, but Lund University, because it's such an old university, have certain traditions that are sort of kept alive by the history of the university that you don't really find many other places. And so something like that is the Nations, which are like student clubs that are run by students voluntarily. And they organize a lot of social activities all throughout the week. So that's really something to do every single day, whatever it's a pub or it's a club or it's a lunch with friends, whatever it might be, like a sports activity, you can find that in one of the Nations. And so, yeah, the student life is something that's really hard to explain to outsiders, but I always just say it's it's such a community here because it's a student town before anything else. So wherever you go, there will be students. And students are really big on the community as well. They're really big on social activities. And because we have so many international students, I find that the international students really love to sort of establish connections, make friends, because they're here sort of momentarily. So we all just want to like get the most out of it and enjoy in whatever way that is. And so like if you find an international student here, chances are they're up for like a cup of coffee or traveling to a country in Europe or whatever it might be. So that's like one of the perks that I really found with Lund University.
Exactly. I think I feel the same way as Freya, especially that we both are part of the same organization. It's called the Lund University Ambassador. So I think we did a lot of fun nights together. So we arranged potlucks, we have games together. And I think these kind of stuffs bond us together, although we are like from all around the world. Basically, none of us are coming from the same country. So I think it's a really good platform and to show how diverse Lund University is. And by the way, I also live in Helsingborg. So Lund University has 2 campuses, not only in Lund, but also in Helsingborg and another one also in Malmö. So I do my master's now in Helsingborg. Although it has different vibe than Lund, I would say the student life there is also prospering now. We had a lot of like students events, but also a lot of like networking events, like Faye also mentioned with the startups, Scroll, and it's also organized a lot by the students' bodies and also by the campus itself. So it's really like you kind of like can pick whatever you want. You have like the fun parts, the more like networking parts, and also the more like hobbies part. There's a lot of students clubs that are running around
For sure.
in Skåne.
There's definitely something for anyone.
Yeah.
Really, I've
And it's important in winter, I would say.
Yeah.
In the
It is.
long, dark time. And you do need to get together with somebody and having activities together.
Yeah, 100%. In the summer, you'll be outside. It's amazing. In the winter, you'll get involved in a student, in something related to students, because there's also so much going on. You never get bored. There's student organization organizing something. I've heard about student organization from everything, from AI all the way to like political science, horse riding, and
I mean, recently I have a really nice experience. So I had this experience of joining a hackathon. That is supported by like the local initiative of the Helsingborg town. So they collaborated with the campus and also with the startup hub in Helsingborg, and they organized this sort of like hackathon with students, and I had a really fun times in there. And not only like to engage with yourself academically, but also professionally. So I find that pretty exciting.
It's like an all-around growth. You go meet people, personal growth, academic growth, professional. Really,
Exactly.
there is something for anyone. What about you? Any highlights from student life that you would like to share?
I can pick something from my first master. We have a collaboration with NASA. We can talk with astronauts because we need to make a project to design something in space. And we got a chance to go to the Houston, where we talk with astronauts, see how the scientists there developing things. I would say without Lund University, we would never got the opportunity to see that, which really opened up my mind.
Wow, and that was part of the program.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And we also have a Milano Design Week. We can exhibit our design project there.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why I said Lund University has a load of resources and very willing to push them to students.
Wow, that's really, I had to take a moment there because it was a big, really, really impressive like opportunity that they had, both of them, going to Milan because it's also very big.
And if the university pay for our our living and the traffic, we just go there and exhibit.
Wow. Okay.
That's so cool.
That's cool. Definitely.
I think for me, and then you might agree with this, but like student life, experiencing as an exchange student, I was here for half a year. and then experiencing it again as a master's student who are here for 2 years. It's two different things, and that they're great in their own aspect. But coming here first as an exchange student, I think you're very much in the mindset of, okay, I have 6 months. I want to experience everything. So you're trying to make friends. You're trying to travel Europe. You're trying to enjoy and get used to all of these classes, sort of try everything that Lund has to offer, which we've talked about is so much. It's like you can find a student organization for pretty much anything. And also there's loads of activities just in town and in Malmö and in Copenhagen if you want to go that far. And so it's really exciting, but it's also very hectic and very how do I cross off as many things on my bucket list as I possibly can? Whereas when I returned as a master's student, I was way more calm because I knew I had 2 years and I'd already done all of the introductory things during my exchange. So I could just sort of focus on settling in, getting to know my new classmates. And then I knew that I had, 2 seasons of trying to experience everything that I felt like I hadn't done the first time around, or that I just wanted to retry or redo again. And so I'm definitely a bit more calm this time around. I'm also probably a bit more boring because I'm focusing a little bit more on my studies. Doing a master's is more intense than doing an exchange semester. Equally important education-wise, but it's just a different scale. And so I'm trying to focus more on my studies and my work, which is a good thing, but I'm definitely taking it at a slower pace. But it's just really interesting experiences those two different things, 2 different ways of experiencing student life. But at the same time, I'm way more settled now. And I know my classmates, I've been with them for a year and a half. And so the social things that I'm doing, maybe I'm a bit more of a tight-knit group this time around. And I have a bit more settled friendships than I had the first time around. I don't know if your experience had been similar to mine.
Actually, I smiled here because I actually feel the same way. I think because I've experienced a lot of things during my 9 months of exchange back then. Now I'm focusing more on my studies. I take things one at a time, so definitely at a really slower pace. And I think that's also become one of the key decision of why I live in Helsingborg now, because in comparison to Lund, Helsingborg is much quieter. It feels much more mature, but I like it because in the area which Lund and Helsingborg is in, which is Skåne, it is very, very accessible. So I can just go to Lund with the train directly in just 30 minutes, and it's only 1.5 hours to Copenhagen. So I can look for fun times, let's say, if I want it. But I really like the life that I started to build again now in Helsingborg.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Building a life, it is different because when you're doing an exchange, you're kind of, you have a timer that's sort of running out. Yeah. Not necessarily in a bad way, but it's just you're very conscious of how little time you have here and you want to do all of these things that I talked about. But coming here for a master's, you're sort of trying to create a life here and a home in a different way. So yeah, it's definitely that. It feels more settled and calm. Yeah.
What advice would you give to an exchange student who's listening to this and thinking, should I go back or not?
I'm totally biased here, but I would definitely say entertain the idea. It didn't pop in my head immediately. I finished my exchange and I was like, okay, that was the greatest experience of my life. I'm never going to get that back. And that was sort of it. And then when I was sort of finishing up my undergrad, the ideas just sort of developed. I was like, actually, it's not impossible to go back. I could try to research this. And so it sort of started slowly. And I was just looking into it and then decided to go for it and do it. And so if you're sort of sitting with that idea of this was an incredible experience, how do I get this feeling back? I would say look into it. Try to entertain the idea. I know that it's very different where you're coming from and what background you have, if it's possible to get here and do a full master's. But if it just in any way is, try to look into it. And it might feel really different because you're sort of giving your life up in a different way because you're committing to a full year or 2 years of coming here. It's uprooting your life in a different way that doing an exchange is. So have a good think about that, but don't be scared of trying something new and going somewhere different. It's totally possible to create a home in a different country, I would say. I think we're all sort of the proof of that you can feel really at home and really comfortable and settled in a place like Lund. And so, yeah, don't be too scared of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I also, like, after I went back after the exchange period, of course, like, a lot of my friends started to ask me, and I also got a platform to talk about it from my campus back home to talk about it. And after that, I see quite a lot of students went to Lund after I went here, because, like, it's not a common choice to go to Scandinavia from Indonesia as an exchange student. So definitely, I feel like going here and experiencing a new type of way of living there's different from your own home countries is gonna add new horizon, not only personally, but also like socially. You get more exposure. And I think you kind of like also have a chance to reinvent yourself in a way. That's how I felt mostly. So I definitely recommend on going on an exchange and also like pursuing again, like your next step, either as a master's or again, taking another master's. I feel like that's definitely a good path to go.
And how do you think Lund has shaped yourself, your career, your studies?
Oof, okay. After I did my exchange, I think I ponder a lot on a lot of like my decision career wise. So previously I did a lot of like work in art production industry, and in that industry, like I feel like there's a lot of like freelancing going on. And after going here, I got exposed to a lot of type of different careers. There are more niche that I could pursue. So that's definitely why I started to make decision that before coming here, I started working 3 years corporately in like a retail group. So that when I came here, I become very like confident in what I'm working at, so that I can start to build my life in here as well, probably in a longer terms after masters as well.
I would say very similar to Elena mentioned, like you will reinvent yourself at Lund University, because we are given far more freedom than like my previous bachelor experience, for example. So you have time to talk with yourself, reflect on yourself, see what you like, what you don't like, and what kind of person you want to become in the future. And that journey will be super valuable for our future career goal. So I would say if you are the people who looking for freedoms and want to dig more deeper into yourself, come to Lund University.
I think for me professionally, networking has been a big thing. I think we've already touched upon this, but Lund University just has opportunities that you don't find in just any other university. And the networking system here is so great. I find it both in my classes, I find it out and about in the student societies, I found it in my work. I work at the External Relations Office, and there's a lot of great networking opportunities here as well. And then on a personal level, when I finished my exchange, or even as I was still doing it, I got a lot of messages from my family, from friends back home, anyone who really knew me, who was sort of following my journey during my exchange, who messaged me and was like, I've never seen you this happy before. I've never seen you this content. It feels like you've sort of unlocked a new version of yourself that we've never seen before. And I'm just so happy for you. And that's obviously really nice to hear, but that was honestly a big eye-opener in, wow, I met some version of myself that I did not know previously. And I reached like a level of happiness that I did not have in my previous studies. And I was content in my previous studies, but Lund just brought something out that really, really did something for me. And so, yeah, returning back and finishing my undergrad, that was also one of the things that I had in the back of my mind was, I have found something special here. And I created some sort of life for myself that I really, really would like to return to if I could. And so just on a personal level, that was something that I felt like that's worth chasing, to find that sort of contentment and happiness again. And it really meant something to me that so many people, it was very noticeable apparently, that it was a really good space for me to be in.
Are you going to stay even afterwards?
I would love to. The future is kind of unclear, but I can totally see myself settling down in Lund. I could see myself settling down in Malmö, which is a bigger city that's just 15 minutes away from Lund. So that's lots of opportunities there as well. We've already talked about this, but the Swedish society and the way that they work with the work-life balance here is something that I resonate with. So I would love to stay.
What about you, Faye?
Definitely. I want to live here forever. Forever.
Elena?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. That's why I prepared with all of my ammunition before pursuing my master's, because for me, I think it's important to plan, especially as an international student, you need to plan even more further. So that's the plan, definitely. Especially now that I experience an extensive period and I know some people and I've become good friends with some of the locals as well. So I definitely feel welcomed here in Sweden to pursue a longer stay or perhaps permanent.
So nice to hear that there is so much energy for Lund, and Lund has had such an impact on every one of us. So thank you for today. It was a pleasure to speak to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lund University International Podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Lund University, you can go to our website, lunduniversity.lu.se. You can also follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and X. And you can connect with our amazing student ambassadors on Unibody. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you a new episode very soon.